Consider approval of the minutes from June 8, from July 13, sorry. And so do I hear a motion?
A motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Thanks, Dean. Thanks, JJ. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So I'll go ahead and sign those and pass them out. Thanks. All right, so we have 3 cases today to publicly hear. So the first case is V 2023-012, and it looks related to 013 in some way, but we'll just have to handle them in order. So Steve will open up the public hearing and ask you to present to us this case number V 2023-012.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. If I may, before I begin, I'd like to introduce our new man, Mr. John Whaley. So, look forward to working with you, and thank you for agreeing to serve. So, case number V 2023-012 is applicant Ryan Young. He's requesting a variance from 154-6D relating to the minimum width of the side setback for a corner property located at 707 West Harleton. This is parcel 32735 of Park Place Edition, Block 4, Lot 12 of the City of Stephenville, Erath County, Texas. What Mr. Young is requesting is his intentions are to build an extension onto the back of his home. It will be a metal building, engineered building from Prime Metal Buildings. He's wanting to extend off the back of the property. And if we can scroll up to the site plan, please. He's asking to extend off the back of the property. The reason that we're asking this to come before the board is because it's a corner property, and this corner property by the zoning, which is R3, requires a 25-foot setback from the corner. When we look at the site plan, and there should be an illustration that I sent to you, they're going to pull that up for us real quickly. The home itself does not meet the minimum setback, and if we look at 707 Tarleton, and that may be a little difficult to see if we can zoom in a little bit, I'd appreciate that. I took a measurement on this just earlier. If we can scroll up just a little. If you look at the ridge line on 707, the home at 707, if we take a measurement from the curb line over, it doesn't quite get to the edge of that, or to the ridge line of the property, but what it does do is it gets to a 25-foot distance would be basically the pavement of the accessory building behind the home. And so that's what it would take to get to a 25-foot setback from Paddock Street. This building footprint, I believe, is going to extend closer to the street than the 25-foot. Mr. Young is here. He may be able to tell us exactly how close that will be to the curb line. He mentioned that he thinks he's going to be about 20 foot away from the curb line. However, anything less than 25 feet will require variance from the board. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
I did have a question. It looked like the packet didn't include a specific number on the variance request.
That is correct.
So-
And Mr. Young may be able to explain the schematic that he provided
Mhm.
in your packet. I was unable to get a measurement on that. And so I want to,
So
I think if he can explain to us in relation of the ridge line where
Mhm.
that will fall, and I think his fence line also will give us a pretty good indicator. The home itself was probably built prior to these setback requirements being
Right.
put in place. The accessory building there, not the detached, what I would assume is the detached garage with the driveway approach. But that accessory building there with the pavement work, the flat work, if he can tell us where in relation it is to that, I think we can get a pretty good idea of what kind of setback we're looking at.
Because typically, we have a specific request for 5-foot variance, or, as you know.
Yes.
So.
Yes, sir.
It makes it a little more difficult when it's just a kind of a blanket variance on the ordinance. So, it'll be very useful for Mr. Young to come up. And Ryan, if you just introduce yourself and then kind of introduce the idea here. Obviously, the house was grandfathered, because it
Sure.
doesn't even fulfill the.
The house was built in 1930.
Yeah.
That, it'll actually.
But introduce yourself first.
Okay, my name is Ryan Young. I live at 707 West Harleton Street here in Stephenville, Texas. The addition will be directly right behind the back of the house. It'll keep the same ridge line and won't go toward the Paddock Street further than the house. It'll be about 6 foot before the house, the edge of the house. It won't actually follow that same line. It'll stop before. So I'll still, my kitchen window looks out, I'll still be able to look out my kitchen window, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then, I guess, what else would you like to know?
What your anticipated variance is actually going to be.
Okay, so it should be 20 foot away from the Paddock Street.
So 5-foot variance.
Some 5 foot, yeah.
Oh, is
Mr.
that-
Chair, if I may,
Yeah.
Mr. Young, would you be willing to just kind of point to us where
Okay.
the line would run in relation to the roof line of your home?
Okay. So that pavement that's right here, it stops right about there, and that's where the building, or the addition will stop as well. So just, it wouldn't go further than the house, it would just stop right there, but then it'll come to here as well.
Which we're gonna be addressing in the next request, I think, the side variance,
I believe so.
right, I think.
Side variance
Yeah.
is for the paddock side. And then you're wanting to cover, I believe he's wanting to cover the area that he currently has as an outdoor use space.
Yeah.
But the variance request, if we think that you can stay 20 feet away from the curb, then yes, sir, it'd be obviously a 5-foot variance from what we're
Because
required to
it
have.
looks like it's grandfathered because it wouldn't even fulfill, at this point, the side variance requirement, right? If it was a new build.
Existing home would not meet,
Would not,
that
right.
footprint would not meet the current
Yeah.
requirements.
But that is okay typically?
Yes, sir.
Right, okay, so we're basically at, kind of, it's like, asking for consistency with a grandfathered space, not really, so, do you understand our?
Yes, sir, I do.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure we're clear on it, so. All right, any, questions for Ryan? Does it make sense, everyone? I did wonder if the, I saw the schematic. Could you roll to the diagram? Could you scroll to the diagram? I just wanna see, is the height gonna be lower than the additional kind
No,
of?
the height will be higher than the other house, than the house.
Will it be higher than the additional, garage-like steel building?
I believe it's 2 foot higher than the other garage. So,
Because that, I could just already hear Alan's voice, you know, like, you know, okay. But the city is okay with the plans for the
You have
use
a
of?
height of up to 35 feet, and I
Yeah.
don't think he's gonna.
It doesn't go over that?
we're right on the 20 to 22
Okay.
foot, yes, sir.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Young? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Just regarding this case, do we have anyone from the community who would like to speak to or against this? For or against? Okay, well, I'll close the public hearing, and do I hear a motion? We can either approve or deny the variance. Those are the two choices.
I motion they move to approve case number B 2023-012.
Do I hear a second?
So moved.
Thank you. Any discussion? No? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Okay, so we're good to go on that one. Now, case number V 2023-013.
Yes, sir. Same property, same legal description. In this particular case, again, related to the building that Mr. Young is proposing. This building would take up additional space on the property. Obviously, it's connecting to the main structure. There is a 40% limitation on the amount of coverage on a residential lot. The main structure alone is estimated at roughly 33% of the 40% maximum coverage. With the square footage that he is proposing, that would certainly exceed the 40% coverage amount. And that does not include the adjacent or the accessory building that exists or the square footage of the detached garage. So if we only look at the main building coverage, it's a 40% coverage. And again, he is attaching to the main building, so it would be basically a residential remodel permit because he's attaching it to the existing home. The 33% maximum, I'm afraid he will exceed that 40%. In fact, I know he will exceed the 40%. I believe he's gonna be up in the 52% coverage. 52% coverage of the residential lot. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
So it's a 12% extra coverage variance.
Yes, sir.
And does that include the other shed?
The
Or
other shed would be.
that other big building?
If you see that we allow on paragraph 8 accessory buildings, we allow an additional 20% coverage for the accessory building. So if we take that out of consideration, the additional coverage of the lot, I believe, is estimated at 12%. So we're asking for a 12% additional coverage as the variance.
And so that other building is allowed within that?
The existing building,
The main, when you say existing building, you're talking about the house? Or,
great question. The existing primary structure, their single-family home is at 33%.
okay, yeah.
The accessory building can be up to an additional 20%. That's the accessory building that we showed on the picture, the
Right.
aerial that we provided earlier, back towards the two-car garage. So with him attaching to the single-family residence, we are looking at an approximately 12% increase in the coverage.
72% total.
Basically, we're asking for a 52% coverage of the primary structure on the lot. Yes,
But
sir.
on the lot,
And then the.
on a
accessory
grandfathered
building,
lot, we're
there's-
looking at a 72% coverage of buildings.
Yes, sir.
So it's 12%. So the request, though, is for 12% added to the main building, but I'm just looking at the entire lot, which is already a corner lot. It's a 72% coverage.
Yes,
Is
sir.
there, is that, still it's 12% over 60? So and that's okay with the city? I mean, I'm just saying your office is not.
Personally, I have some concern with us having an entire lot, basically, having impervious drainage. If you look at the aerial here,
Okay.
he has a lot of rooftop, and he's basically gonna take in the entire backyard with an impervious surface,
Right.
being the rooftop of the prime metal building. Everything is going to more than likely drain to the street at Paddock, so I don't anticipate it being a huge impact to the adjoining or to the downstream properties. I would like Mr. Young to perhaps explain how he will get the water that's diverted from the roof from the east side of that, assuming that's, let me rephrase that, the right-hand side of the property over to Paddock, where the driveway
Right.
exits onto Paddock. If that's been taken in consideration and the board is comfortable with the additional 12%, then we could certainly support the request.
Could I ask you another question about kind of the intent of the laws that were put into place? Would this be the time to ask that question?
Sure.
Would there be, again, this is a grandfathered property and it's all a very interesting area because it's so varied in what's happening. There are kind of like traditional homes and then there's more almost industrial looking buildings in the area. And so anyway, and then there's a church nearby, you know what I mean? It's just a very almost is like building kind of place, right? And so here we have a home that's already grandfathered in to where there's less kind of yard space, if you will. But then what Ryan's, you don't mind me using your first name, do you? Okay. Proposing is to put another kind of warehouse-ish kind of space, building behind the house, between the big garage-like structure, and then there's even less yard space. So what, but this additional building, is it meant to be an extension to the family part, the residence part, or is it much more about kind of a business purpose use for the?
Is it, is it just covering the concrete that you currently have there? Just like an outdoor cover on it?
It'll outdoor cover, but then it'll open up into the house, so it's not, I wouldn't say it's an industrial look, it'll still be the same look as the house, so.
So wait, so that's, we'll have time to actually have you come to the podium and ask those kinds of questions, but my first question is back to Steve about what the kind of, the spirit of the law is regarding what is its intent for this kind of, it's a residential use, but if the idea is they want, the city wants it to be at least a little over, no more than a little over half building and then the rest of it yard, I guess, or some form of landscaping, right? And so what we're doing here is kind of almost making it to where it's a quarter possible landscaping and 3/4 or 72% buildings on the property.
Yes, sir.
So that's where we're coming to the 12% over variation, right? So, what is it that the city wants to see happening with land like this, these residential homes? Because I think that'll affect how we rule on this one.
So I think I understand
Okay.
the question.
Yeah.
So with the current subdivision ordinance, when we look at developments, we try to, the 40% limitation is there, not just because we want green space, but because of the impervious drainage of a structure, rooftop, concrete. And when you take in impervious drainage into a development, that has to be taken into consideration for the runoff and the impact downstream.
Mhm.
And so with every development we look at, drainage is one of the primary concerns, and that's one of the biggest parts of the review, is to make sure that the impact on adjacent properties is not detrimental.
Mhm.
So here, he does have a lot of flat work, that's impervious, to your point, sir. But we're also looking at rooftop with a pitch and the direction of the drainage how it's going to get to the, from the right-hand side of the property to the left-hand side of the property to allow for proper drainage, or even out to Tarleton Street without it being forced upon his next-door neighbor. And so, those are the concerns that I would have, in the position that I hold. I don't know that this will, because of his close proximity and the fact that he's draining to Tarleton Street already, or I'm sorry, Paddock Street, I don't know that's gonna be a huge impact downstream. We're not talking about a ginormous structure, but the capacity or the maximum coverage of the lot is going to be exceeded. So if we were looking at this at a new construction stage, that would be something that we would send back to the developer and say, you're exceeding the maximum coverage. That's a long-winded answer, but I wanted to make sure. I covered
Yeah, I
the
appreciate
question.
it. Thank you. All right, super. So, Mr. Young, if you'd come back up, and you don't have to reintroduce yourself, but.
Okay. So what am I responding to?
I guess the bigger question here is,
Drainage?
yeah, drain it.
Okay.
Well, and just help us understand what, like, you
So-
envision the use
Sure.
for this extra.
So this is, I mean, this will be like a second story. Everything underneath will be open, so it'll still be an outdoor space. The second level will be a bedroom. That right side of that pavement right there will French drain out the driveway. There's another driveway that goes out the front of Tarleton Street, so there's
Right.
no issue for drainage right there. I don't really.
So it's kind of like, it's a garage apartment, but sort of, kind of,
Sure. That's a very small home, so it's not a very
And you
large
said
home,
it
so-
is all open underneath,
Correct,
correct?
yes, sir.
Is that all concrete that's already existing?
Yes, sir.
That you're building on top of?
Yes, sir.
And you've addressed the drainage with that, with the French drain, you said, to bring
Correct.
the water out from your neighbor's side back to the street?
Correct, between the pavement and that fence right there.
Okay, so you've already
And
addressed some of
there's
that.
the drainage on the other side, you see where it goes. Today it was very clear on where the water was going.
yeah.
Will you be using any kind of gutter system?
I will have gutter system, yes, sir.
Okay, so from there, you can address more of the drainage with a little more gutters than the French drain you've already put in place?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you so much. All right, do I hear any voices from the community speaking for or against that have already kind of gotten in line to do so? Okay, well, then we'll close the public hearing. Do I hear a motion to approve or deny case number V 2023-013?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve case number V2023-013.
Thank you very much, Dean. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Ben. Let's have some discussion if necessary. Any comments? Any questions? All right. All in favor of this motion to approve the request, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, so the motion passes. Thanks for being here. Yeah, you can go. Yeah, good luck. All right, and we have number 4 on our agenda, case number V 2023-014. Steve?
Yes, sir. Applicant Niraj Patel, representing D&J Investment LLC, is requesting a variance from section 154, 6, relating to the height of a structure. Minimum height of the structure, or the maximum height, is 35 feet. Mr. Patel's engineer is here. Charles, if I recall.
Yes.
Don't remember your last name,
Charlie
Charles.
Merritt.
Yeah.
Merritt,
Merritt?
M-E-R-R-I-T-T.
And so he's here to answer any questions that we may have. Basically, this property is on Northwest Loop. It is just kind of northwest of the Triple Crown Ford. And it's, they are looking at about a 2.5, 3 acre tract. They're looking to build a hotel at this location. The hotel would be a welcomed addition to our community. We certainly need the room space. They are looking to go to a maximum height of 54 and I believe 10 or 11 inches. At 55 feet, a different, higher level of construction standards comes into play. So they're wanting to, I believe they're going to 54 foot. And that is the purpose behind this variance request, is because of the limitation of 35 feet for a B2 zone property. All of our zonings are basically capped at a 35-foot height. And so anything above that requires us to come to the board for consideration. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. So it's a request for a variance of about 19 feet and 11 inches.
And
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's.
Please come up and introduce yourselves. We're on Facebook
Yeah.
Live or something like that. So, Mr. Merritt, if you'd just introduce yourself. And
My
then-
name is Charlie Merritt, and I'm out of Waco. I'm a civil engineer, so I'm kind of stepping in for the architect.
Okay.
And I can answer any questions. I brought a board over here that
Oh,
it
please.
kind of shows
Yeah.
what we're intending. And the 54 includes the parapet, which the parapet, I believe, is 7.5 feet or something like that.
Okay.
So it's not quite.
So the
The
building
total.
proper is actually a lot, I mean, you said 7 feet short, fewer feet than the.
So
47, 48.
Yeah.
I got 46'3" to the first parapet. So that would be,
That's just
I believe
11.
that's that line right there.
Okay, that's
So
11 feet.
This is all the extra. And then,
And just educate me, what's the purpose behind the parapets,
it is to,
or the height of the parapet?
it's for visual pleasing. It prevents you
It's
from seeing
aesthetic.
the air conditioner units and the mechanical features of it.
It's open behind it, correct? I
Yes,
mean,
sir.
it's just like an enclosed.
Yeah.
Like a facade?
Area.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of definition there, but
Mhm.
yeah, so they've got like exhaust fans, and see this'll be, that white piece is this sign here,
Okay,
but the main part of the structure will be down at,
46-ish,
yeah, 46. I think.
yeah.
Mhm.
So the bulk of the building itself is only 12
12
feet
feet.
above.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it ends up being about a 11.32 inch
Mhm.
variance request, in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
For the
always-
building
it
proper.
always,
Right.
It always includes to the very peak.
Right.
So, kind of looking at things like the La Quintas, I've done some
Mhm.
La Quintas with this developer, and we've always had to go for a variance for, La Quintas, you always have the main roof part, and then you have that one spire,
Mhm.
like that one part.
Tower.
That's always above. I believe y'all have a La Quinta like right
Mhm.
across the street. And then, kind of what we're trying to stay with is similar to the, Holiday Inn that y'all have. It's a few miles, like a mile or two away.
I thought this was a Holiday
This is the
I'm sorry, it's
Express.
a Best Western now. It
Oh,
used to
yeah.
be a Holiday Inn.
Inn. Okay.
Yeah. It's, on Lockhart, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just to make sure we don't run into a problem when we get to the development stage.
Yeah.
The variance needs to be for the total
total.
height, not just the main structure. of the
I got you.
building.
Yeah. Just wanted to make sure we understood what, in terms of cosmetic, cosmetic aesthetics, when people look at it, they're really, of course, they're gonna see anything that goes above that main line, but the building itself, in terms of a skyline or a view, will be predominantly 46.32 feet. But,
And this'll-
but there'll
this-
be, of course, like you said, the parapet and the
Mhm.
other,
And there's
pieces.
requirements from the franchise, like Holiday Inn requires it to have this certain look, so it's
Mhm.
gonna match every, it's not gonna look foreign, it's gonna look just like every Holiday Inn you've ever been in.
Right, right. Very good. Any other questions from the board? Thanks, Mr. Merritt, we
Yep.
appreciate it. Very good. Are there any members from the community who would like to speak to this request? Okay, well, I'll close the public hearing. And do I hear a motion now regarding case number V2023-014?
I'll move that we approve case number V2023-014.
Thank you, JJ. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Dean. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 None opposed? Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
All right, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
I don't usually, there's usually against that, so. All right, thank you all so much for being here. It's good to see you.